Hi, I'm Mike, owner of the In-Groove in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, a lot of reissues have come out in the last 10 years, and a lot of those reissues are just better reissues of the previous Audiophile reissue that came before it. A lot of reissues are a welcome sight, but they're not mind-boggling in the sense that, wow, this was really needed. We really needed a reissue of this record. No good versions of these records existed. You know, that kind of thing doesn't get said very often. But this next series is just that. It's a reissue series of a label that has crummy sounding records in production now, if any at all, or the originals are just absolutely terrible. And that label is Chess Records. Now, this reissued series took me by surprise because, like a lot of you, I assumed from what I heard recently that the Chess Masters have been destroyed. They were destroyed in the fire and they were never to be had again, which was sad because a lot of those iconic blues records, my favorite form of blues. I'm not a huge folky country blues fan myself. Personally, I like Chicago electrified blues. Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Little Walter. That's my jam, and that is Chess Records. That is the defining characteristic of most of those Chess blues records. There's some outliers, but for the most part, that's what you're getting. And that's, for me, that's where it's at. And those are some of the most iconic recordings, blues-wise, and even rock and roll. There's some phenomenal Dale Hawkins, Chuck Berry. There's some phenomenal rock records on the label, but this is a label that has never really had great records put out on vinyl before. The originals are terrible. They cost an absolute fortune, and I mean they're terrible. They are pressed on the crummiest, noisiest, most bubbliest, think Jamaican 1970s vinyl. I mean, terrible records. Now, nothing on the Chess catalog, for the most part, would be considered an audiophile record. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't deserve to come out in the absolute highest quality version possible. And that's not something we've really gotten until the announcement of this series. So let me go over this series with you. Now, it's going to be a reoccurring couple of titles every month, very similar to what the Acoustic Sounds Verve Impulse series is, the Bluesville series, what the Contemporary series was supposed to be, but they've kind of dried up. This is going to be a continuation of just like another series. But these are records again. Everything that I'm about to show you is an absolute essential must own. These aren't records that you need to own because other record collectors have told you you need to own these, like Trout Mask Replica, Captain Beefheart. You know, a record that people are like, oh, you gotta own this. You gotta own the MC5, you know, kick out the jams. That's an absolute, that's the record you gotta own. There's certain records as a record collector you're told you need to own. I don't know. The records I'm about to tell you, these are must-own records. These are records that are not only historically significant, considered some of the greatest records of all time, but they're just absolute smokers, fun to listen to, loaded with hits, loaded with iconic tunes. These are records you just gotta own. And I'm being blown away by this. I'm elated by this series. Now, this is going to be a series, by the way, too, that's made available everywhere. You're going to be able to get these at every place. I've got them on the ingroove.com's website. You can get them everywhere. These are going to be just like those other series, Tone Poets, Blue Note Classics. They're going to be worldwide distributed titles. But, man, what killer titles. Now, let's get into it. So starting with the first two titles, October 17th, we're getting The Best of Muddy Waters. I here have an original black label, beautiful copy from Chess. This record is amazing, and this record sounds mediocre. Again, these aren't audiophile records. The Best of Muddy Waters is really nothing more than a compilation. Keep in mind, Chess was a singles label. This is a label that specialized in making hit tunes on 45s, and then after a while, they had enough of these things that they're like, you know what, we can put an album out, and here we go. Muddy Waters, but they're just dynamite records. So we're getting this October 17th. And then we're getting Howlin' Wolf's Moanin' in the Moonlight. Now, this record is so difficult to find an original of, I don't even have it. I've got this Japanese pressing. But you know what? Probably sounds a hell of a lot better than original, because the originals, again, are made on extremely crummy vinyl. Just terrible vinyl. So that's the first two in the series. Mind-boggling. They're just such great records. You know all the tunes on this Muddy Water, even if you're just a casual music fan. Let's just go over side one. Hoochie Coochie Man. Oh, this is side two. I've got them in backwards. But look at the track list on just this one record. I Just Want to Make Love to You, Honeybee, Rolling Stone, Hoochie Coochie, I Can't Be Satisfied. There's so many iconic tunes on just this one record. The next two, they come out November 21st. This record, in a small way, vis-a-vis Elvis, got me into rock and roll. I'll never forget the first time I experienced Johnny B. Goode. I was at my father's best friend's house when I was a kid. He was playing Elvis, I believe it was live at Madison Square Garden. He does a cover of Johnny B. Goode on it. He was playing on a pair of Macintosh XRT 18s with Macintosh MC 2300 amplifiers. And I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. And it just blew my mind. I fell in love with hi-fi and I fell in love with rock and roll at that moment. It was magical. This, Chuck Berry, is on top, of course. The original LP with Johnny B. Goode on it. Roll Over Beethoven is on this as well, covered by the Beatles. Such an influential record. Maybelline, Carol, Almost Grown. What an amazing, amazing record. It's just an iconic, like, must-have record. You'll never put this record on your shelf and not play it. Again, mostly single compilations, but you know, you're not going to go buy a bunch of 7-inch singles and play them, so you're going to buy the albums. This next record is actually a record. It was never a compilation of a bunch of singles, and it's just a phenomenal record from front to back. So I'm assuming because of this inclusion of this title in this list, we're not going to get just Chess records. We're going to get their imprint labels, like Etta James At Last on Argo. What a phenomenal record. It has the iconic At Last on it. Just a tune that just gets more and more popular as years go by. But a must-own record. And this, unlike a lot of stuff on Chess, I wouldn't quite call this like full-blown audiophile, but this is an exceptionally good sounding record, especially for the type of music and the era of music. It is really good. A phenomenal record. Originals of this are, of all these records, if you find them, they're always whipped. If you find them clean, they're never that good because the vinyl is so crummy. But for just an average person to be able to go and buy these premium, well-done versions, it's going to be mind-boggling. We're getting tip-on jackets. We're getting the full audiophile treatment by Matt Luthans. Now, I will say a note on the mastering. Again, I talked about this earlier, assuming the master tapes were lost. But it turns out the master tapes were not lost. I contacted Chad from Acoustic Sounds Analog Productions earlier today to get a little clarification. And most of these records were cut with the master tapes. Some cases, the master tapes were not available. They were cut with really high quality, probably safety copies. From what I'm hearing vis-a-vis other sources, these were probably tapes that were made off the original master tape back in the day and sent to European markets for lacquer cutting and manufacture there. But for the most part, we're getting, first of all, they're all analog, cut from analog tapes, but most of these are cut from master tapes. Pretty phenomenal. Etta James At Last, an absolute must-own record. The Best of Little Walter. This is coming out December 12th. Again, another phenomenal dynamite record. It's got My Babe on it. Just a fantastic blues harp tune. Highly recommend this record. I can't speak more highly over this series. It's just, You notice I don't do these types of videos like, hey, coming soon, such and such, because there's so much great stuff coming out. Okay, this is a series that's just iconic records I never thought we would get. I mean, it just ticks all the boxes. You don't got good sounding versions of these records. You know, you don't have these records, and they're great records, and you should have them. And I'll talk about some versions that have come out in the past. The last title we know about is The Real Folk Blues of Sonny Boy Williamson. Again, that comes out December 12th. There have been audiophile presses of some of these records in the past. The Etta James At Last came out by Speaker's Corner. It was a stereo version. It is not nearly as good as the original. Not great. Speaker's Corner did The Best of Muddy Waters. It was okay. It wasn't a bad sounding record. But typical Speaker's Corner, you got an okay cover. It's not going to be the full deluxe treatment that we're going to get with this series. You know, I think maybe Little Walter might have been done by Speaker's Corner as well. Chuck Berry, like nada. Like, these records are so badly needed. And there's so many great titles that could, the whole Chuck Berry catalog on Chess. Dynamite, that Dale Hawkins record, Susie Q, Dynamite. These are records that I'm really looking forward to. And yeah, this is a series that, get on board, guys. This is a great series. You're inundated with stuff. You're inundated with reissue after reissue, but come on, these are just absolutely killer titles. I'm thrilled. I hope this series is wildly successful. I feel like we haven't kind of seen a lot of contemporary titles because I don't know if those were as successful as they envisioned that series being. But I really want this series to be successful because these are some great iconic records. Many of them in the Rolling Stone, for instance, top 500 record lists of all time. Not that that means much, but you know, I think there's some questionable choices in that top 20 list, to say the least. But a lot of these records are some of the absolute best records ever made by some of the biggest legends of all time. But yeah, all of these are available on the website at theingroup.com. Until next time.